Now Nigel and our Deputy Chairman, Head of Policy, Suzanne Evans, will take questions from the media. Now, I have a bit of a problem with these lights. James, BBC. Is the Roman microphone? Where are we going?
James Landell, BBC. Mr Farage, you seem to have a very short shopping list for your post-election negotiations. Apart from an immediate EU referendum, what else would UKIP demand as a price for its support?
Well, that may well be because my focus is different to your focus. Your focus and the media focus is on what happens after May the 7th. My focus is on getting the People's Army into a fit shape to fight the election on May the 7th, to stun all of you with the number of seats that we win, and then we'll have that conversation at a more protracted length.
But forgive me, you have just announced to us about what your plans would be for after the general election. You spoke at length about them at the end of your speech. Why is immigration not a red line for you? Why is the European arrest warrant not a red line for you?
Well, immigration is inextricably linked with our membership of the European Union. You can't have a credible immigration policy and be a member of the European Union. So yes, of course, we'll be campaigning between now and May the 7th, as I've said earlier, on an ethical Australian-style point system, something, by the way, that has the overwhelming majority support of people in this country. I've made it clear that post-May the 7th, if we find ourselves in the right position, the absolutely key issue is the referendum. That doesn't mean it will be the only one, but let's not presuppose what negotiations might happen on May the 8th or afterwards. Let's get this party out there, campaigning, engaging with people, and the more we do that, the more demands we'll be able to make.
Okay, Chris, ITV.
Thank you very much. Chris Ship from ITV News. Hello, Nigel. You have just said that UKIP are going to get a good number of men and women elected, but I doubt that even you will predict that you'll end up with 40 or 50 MPs, which is precisely what the SNP are heading for at the moment. So the one-party leader that's going to get to break the cosy Westminster Club, as you call it, or the one-party leader that's going to cause a political earthquake, isn't you, it's Nicola Sturgeon.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? If you look at the SNP vote and seats, they are taking every one of those seats directly off the Labour Party. So the arithmetic suggests that whether the SNP win 10, 20, 30 or 40 seats, actually that potential electoral pact that seemed to be on the centre-left of politics doesn't go up. The arithmetic doesn't change with the SNP winning seats. The arithmetic changes hugely if UKIP wins seats like Hayward and Middleton from the Labour Party, wins seats like Eastleigh from the Liberal Democrats, and who knows, perhaps even wins Thanet South off the Conservative Party. We are the ones that can fundamentally change the electoral arithmetic.
I don't see how you can say that it doesn't change the arithmetic, though, because they will deny Labour the possibility of getting in to number 10 Downing Street, well, and if you say you get 5 MPs, they're going to have 40 or 50 MPs.
Well, what the
person that will have the power, will hold the balance of power, the kingmaker, will be Nicola Sturgeon, not Nigel Farage.
Well, I think one thing is for certain, that is that neither party is going to form a majority. You're quite right, the SNP have radically changed Scottish politics, but don't underestimate in England and Wales the extent to which UKIP have changed politics. And frankly, I mean, to be honest with you, anybody now that thinks they can accurately predict the number of seats that UKIP's going to win, or the overall shape of the next parliament, in my opinion, you may as well play the child's game of pin the tail on the donkey, because the answer is no one knows. And actually what the effect of UKIP has been now in many parts of the country is you now find constituencies that suddenly, because of UKIP, are three-way marginals. There are even seats in Cornwall and the North West that are now four-way marginals. I do not know how many seats UKIP are going to win. All I do know is some of the key seats that I'm very much in touch with, such as this one here in Castle Point. We're doing well, and we're now the favourites. I'm not making any silly predictions, because no one knows. But I do feel we're going to get a good number of people into Westminster. And I also think that if Labour and the SNP are there on the left, that doesn't actually increase the total number of seats available on the left.
Okay, Dan, Sky.
Darren McCaffrey from Sky News. Nigel, within the last hour or so that Lord Fink has told the Evening Standard that he did take what he calls vanilla tax avoidance measures. He said that, quote, "I didn't object to his use of the word tax avoidance because you are right, tax avoidance, everybody does it." What's your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on what David Cameron should now do about Lord Fink, or indeed Lord Green?
Well, it's all a question of whether what Lord Fink has done is legal or not legal. And if it's legal, then people may disapprove of it, but that ends the conversation. My real concern is that we're actually missing the real point about tax avoidance and tax evasion, and that is the growth of the black economy in this country. The amount of business that is being done for cash without tax being paid on it. That I think is a factor. And the other thing I would say is that a lot of legal tax schemes are now put into place so that people can avoid, so that those that follow on can avoid paying inheritance tax. You know, that is a massive part of the tax industry, and what we would like to see is that changed. And when it comes to taxation, you know, we'll be saying no tax on minimum wage, but no double taxation in life. If you simplify the tax system, fewer people will seek to avoid it.
Do you not think there's a moral case to be made, even if it is legal, that morally avoiding tax is not right?
I think that depends. I think there are schemes and schemes, and I think some of the schemes we've seen clearly are immoral, others of them are not. It's a very complicated area.
Okay, Robin Brandt.
Robin Brandt, BBC News. Nigel, the National Health Service features prominently in UKIP campaigning now. Can you just say whether you think the current model of funding the National Health Service is sustainable? And to Suzanne Evans, your policy chief, can you just explain UKIP's deficit reduction plan, please?
Okay, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. First on the NHS, we've obviously pledged £3 billion for the NHS, and we will be looking not at any kind of top-down reorganisations or any restructuring, but we are doing some work on looking at reintegrating health and social care. Previous successive governments have made pledges to ring-fence NHS spending, but unfortunately local government budgets have been so cut to the bone now that social care has almost well, it's just disgraceful, actually, the way in which some of our elderly people are now being treated. So we'll be looking at to increase that funding as well, and to perhaps put some of our £3 billion into increasing the work that we're doing with older people as well in the community. As far as the deficit reduction strategy is going, I like to say that we're the only party that actually has any money to spend. Once we leave the European Union, we'll have billions more to play with, and that's why UKIP's the only party that can make any pledges about funding and increasing investment without having to up taxes or to make any deeper, very much deeper cuts to public services. And I'm quite proud of that. And as far as the actual deficit reduction strategy goes, that will be coming forth in our manifesto.
Well, I mean, what we're going to do, you know, this is our first public event of the year, where we're setting out the overall picture of our general election campaign. We're going to have individual speeches like this with the individual spokesmen and women, and we'll be doing that on the NHS, on the economy, and so on. So we'll do the specifics at subsequent meetings.
Oh, hang on. Robin.
Well, no, not a question of not answering the questions, is it? I mean, look, you know, what we're saying about the National Health Service is we're not getting bang for buck. But when it comes to the overall expenditure on health, let's not delude ourselves. The population of this country has increased very rapidly. The scale of ageing in Britain is actually quite dramatic. Anyone that thinks we're going to be able to cut spending on health over the next few years isn't looking at the real world.
Michael, The Guardian.
Yes. You are quite right. No. We will in 2 weeks' time do a speech specifically about the economy. where we're going to have to say where savings come from. You're absolutely right, and we will do that. And Suzanne mentioned the European Union budget, but of course there is also the foreign aid budget, most of which we think is being really rather badly spent, and what has now become an extension of foreign policy. We will also talk about HS2, which is projected to cost the national finances perhaps up to 70 billion over the next couple of decades. And we'll also be talking about things like the fact that we think it probably isn't right that the billionaires from Saudi Arabia or Russia can go and shop in Bond Street, and when they get to Heathrow, get their VAT back. So there will be measures to raise more revenue. We will lay those out more clearly. Thank you for the comments about my health and personal appearance. I did. But I think it was clearly a very keen eye. I did do the dry January thing, and I have lost a substantial amount of weight doing so. And I'm fighting fit for the next 3 months. I didn't weigh myself at the start of January or at the end, but I am wearing suits that I haven't squeezed into for years.
Final question to the Castle Point Echo, I believe it's Jamie, isn't it?
Hello there, it's David Traynor from the Echo newspapers. So we've obviously seen a lot of coverage of what happened with Kerry Smith and the perhaps disagreements between different members of UKIP in South Basel and East Thurrock. Also, we've got the situation in Southend where a number of councillors on Southend Council have been suspended for not supporting the UKIP council candidate for the election. I'm just wondering how you feel about the infighting in UKIP in South Essex.
Well, I think what's happened is that a party that contested the seats in South Essex in the 2010 general election and did so without the slightest prospect of winning any of those seats is a different party to one whose membership has grown hugely, who've had great success with the county council elections in Essex, and where we now believe that we've got a real chance of winning more than one seat, let's put it like that, in South Essex. And naturally, when you get a situation like that, you get competition and you get ambition. It's part of the growing up of UKIP from being a small party into being a big party, and in the end, you find that you can't always take everyone with you. Does that make us any different to any other political party or any other organisation in life? No, it's about people. And we have been, I think we've been pretty tough and pretty ruthless as a party, to get rid of people who are not prepared to be team players and to get rid of people whose comments have caused general outrage. And that's perhaps the most difficult balance that I've got being leader of the party. We want a party made up of people from all sorts of different backgrounds who can freely speak their minds, but we don't want people causing mass offence.
Okay, thank you very much, folks. That's all we have time for now.